back in 2007, decided to sell the company, we would never be a $10 billion company. So the temptation to actually sell the company and run away is something that happens a lot to entrepreneurs, particularly to Argentinian entrepreneurs that always been creating companies in the middle of a very unstable environment.
Welcome to Born to Unicorn, where we uncover the stories of visionaries for defining industries. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you Guibert Englebienne, co-founder of Globant. In 2003, Guibert co-founded Globant with the goal of building a global technology company from Argentina to the world. At that time, many people thought it couldn't be done. Not only did he and his team succeed, but they accomplished what seemed impossible. Scaling and scalable. Starting from zero, Guibert helped grow Globant in a nearly $10 billion company at Unicorn. Is that how is it called?
Decacorn.
Decacorn. Beyond his incredible achievement with Globant, Guibert is a champion for innovation, entrepreneurship, and empowering talent worldwide. Guibert, it's an honor having you in the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Juan. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you.
It's my pleasure. I know you for a long time, and let me start with this anecdote. As you know, I'm very passionate about knowing, the DNA of an entrepreneur, right? And I remember many years ago, like in 2014, I believe it was, we were in an event where Chuck Dorsey was doing the very interesting presentation. And when the presentation finished, we were invited to go to a place where it was a big table with food, and around the table, a lot of like booth with Google, Facebook, whatever. And we went there together, and I was facing the table to eat. As a poor entrepreneur, your mind was different. You said, I'm going somewhere else, right? And I asked you, where are you going? And you said, I'm going to sell. And I realized at that point that if a $300 million company, I think it was your company at that time, entrepreneur is going to sell and then going to eat, something is wrong on my side, right? So I think, do you still have that appetite?
I do. I just arrived yesterday from a trip and I was selling. Yeah. To always be selling in a company like Globant, you also need to be always recruiting. So it's key to have that appetite.
But how don't you lose the appetite, right? Because we see, at least when I compare Argentina with other like developed countries, right? I see like more appetite in Argentina. We both are endeavor entrepreneurs, and we see the entrepreneurs in developing countries that has that appetite because, of course, they don't have everything done, right? But in your case, even when you came from Argentina, today your company has a valuation of what, like $10 billion?
Yeah.
10, 15, right? Depending on the market, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't believe we will ever lose the appetite. It's more about, we like to grow, and I believe that, one of the reasons that drive us is the willingness to create something as large as we can, and to create an organization that will last even longer than us. So for us, it's natural. It's a way of I enjoy meeting customers and helping them. We approach them with the vision not to sell, actually, is to listen to their problems and try to say, hey, I believe that we can help you. And that's extremely invigorating for someone like me, who's curious about the others' problems. And, as an engineer, you want to actually come up with the best solutions for different problems, and our customers are always a great source of them. So we enjoy facing those challenges. So I enjoy talking to customers.
But okay, that's a very interesting point because you mentioned that you have a engineering profile, and I come from also from the operations. I like to code and all that, but it was extremely hard for me at some point to start like relating to people, right? And it was like the profile is not a profile that typically has the capability of connecting to people, but in your case, you are is so smooth to connect with you, to have a deep conversation with you. You are definitely not the typical engineer, right?
Well, yeah, I would say since I was at university, people were people that that usually met me. They say you're not the typical engineer. You're not like on top of the keyboard. I always like to get in love with the problem and try to talk to know more about industries, about technologies, and trying to connect what you could achieve with them. I believe that's something that I found in some technical people, and I believe that those are the ones who really can make a professional services business like ours grow. Is when you have curious people in front of a customer, and they try to 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 create magic with the technology at hand. So for that to happen, you need to be, on one side, you need to be a very good listener, but on the other hand, I believe there's a lot of willingness to show that you can, to create trust. Something that the person on the other side will say, "Hey, this guy knows what he's talking about," and that as a professional is natural that many of us have it. So I don't know. I enjoy a lot those kind of conversations.
But also, at some point, of course, you are, as I mentioned before, you are an endeavor entrepreneur and one of the well-known, endeavor entrepreneurs in the world. And you always find time for people to, any entrepreneur. You're very approachable, right? Even when you have this, gigantic company in your back that you have to move forward, and there is like people in the stock market, expecting you to do everything perfectly fine. How do you find that time for other people, and why is that important for you to assign that time that is very small for you to small entrepreneurs?
I would say I discovered that a side effect, a collateral effect of building a business is getting expertise that can be invaluable for others. Okay. So as much as possible, I would like to spend time trying to help others because I know that being an entrepreneur is not an easy feat.
Mm-hmm.
It's true that I like to be close to people. One thing that is important for me is try to achieve great things, but at the same time be very down to earth and very approachable. Okay, so being accessible is something that I like. I like knowing people's names and spending time with them as much as possible. It's true that sometimes it's not physically possible, but sometimes you have if you have the opportunity, you can make a big difference in the life of another entrepreneur if you devote time there. That's something that at Endeavor we have learned, for a long time. As you know, in the last 10 years, I've been having the privilege of leading Endeavor in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me the opportunity to be in close proximity with entrepreneurs that they surprise me a lot, and they defy what people really thinks about what an entrepreneur is. Usually when you see people who are not in the startup world, they would say, okay, startups are like cells that are isolated, trying to survive, trying to succeed. But suddenly what I see is people devoting a lot of effort and time to help the one next to you. So that's very encouraging, and I believe that makes for an entrepreneurial network is one of the best places to nurture yourself and to grow. But this is like a picnic. It's not that you go to a network to get something out. You need to bring something in. And as much as you do, the more you give, the more you are, and the better entrepreneur you become. So I guess that that's really important for me.
So I like the comparison with the potluck instead of like something, and it's fun, it's kind of curious that a person with your track record is saying, "I'm learning from entrepreneurs that are approaching you." I believe that I know many of the entrepreneurs that are approaching you, and probably they never think Guibert is learning from me.
Oh. Every time I go to an Endeavor selection panel and I listen to those stories, I have the opportunity to learn a lot. Because even though you may be successful on one field, there are other ways of doing businesses, different business models, different industries. And when you listen to them, sometimes you see, wow. It's true to Endeavor, we have the benefit of having extremely successful entrepreneurs trying to join our network, and that creates a really interesting learning opportunity.
Thank you. And so one interesting point in your mentioning Endeavor is this idea of helping entrepreneurs in developing markets, in markets where probably they really need it, and the multiplier effect. So let's get into a little bit of the multiplier effect that is very easy to see in Argentina, at least in some other countries. Yeah. What's the weight of the network? What's the weight of the entrepreneur? What's the weight of the background of the entrepreneur? What do you think is the perfect recipe for a successful entrepreneur? What's the balance? Is important, your profile? What do you think is really important?
I believe, Juan, Globant is the 7th company that I co-founded. The other 6 no longer exist. So
okay.
You need to actually try several times in order to be lucky. But also what you need, I believe, is, first of all, is the size of the opportunity is key. If you're going to follow a big opportunity, then your company may reach a certain scale. The second thing is how the team that you assemble. I've been extremely lucky to find my 3 other co-founders, which are still with me on the company every day. We are friends, and it's for us is a privilege. Each of us, in contrast with other companies that I've been to, each of us is different, but somehow complementary. Okay, so I didn't know that. It was just a matter of luck, but I believe that there are things when there's a problem coming, we all know who's going to handle it. We know each other very well, and we read ourselves. So that makes it easier. Then, of course, you need to start creating you need to have shared values. And within Globant founding team, I see the ambition to really do something transformational, something that's going to be here for longer than ourselves. And so all the time we are trying to demonstrate that we can. And, a little bit irreverent in some way, trying to defy all the no's that we may encounter. But that's the core values and shared values is the vision in the long term, and the values that drive you there are key. Then once you have your company, then a network will help. It will be impossible to actually create a successful company out of the network itself, but definitely the network helps a lot.
This is very interesting because you're mentioning things. As someone that loves the to understand the math behind an entrepreneur, which is actually in the average is fine. In the case of unicorns, which are outliers, it's not that easy. And in your case, it's a good case of non-standard success, right? You're for entrepreneurs normally is something not advisable, right? To be for, and you have a lot of two entrepreneurs is the best, right? But then you have Facebook is one, and then you are four. So basically, it's not the common thing. Then how you started, right? There is nothing that you learn in college or in an MBA or in a PhD that can drive you to build a company like yours. I mean, you flew from one moment to the other to UK for the first client, right? And it was the last money you had in your pocket. You sold something that it was really hard to achieve, but you did it. And then I remember the fantastic cases of HR you developed. I remember being in La Plata, waiting for the bus, and someone approached me with a letter of someone that was missing his boyfriend. I don't know if you remember that one.
I remember.
And he was telling the story of, I used to travel in this bus to Buenos Aires, and now I found a fantastic job at Globant, and I don't need to travel anymore. I can go by bicycle to work here in La Plata, but I miss her, right? And you created like a love story that helped people connect and generate more talent for your company. None of those things were things that I ever saw before, not only in Argentina, but in any other place. So what was going in your mind when you said yes to the client in UK, right? Last minute, right? It was the client?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what went into your mind when you went to this expo, whatever, that you had the apples on, right, in the entrance? How you created that and how you said, yes, it's a good idea, let's do it?
Well, I guess it's you start with a small problem, and then you start saying, okay, I need to fix this. So the idea is, we didn't. First of all, I would say we did certain things that were counterintuitive. So it would be natural for any entrepreneur to try to sell next door, sell something in Argentina, in Brazil, in Uruguay.
Yeah.
But that wasn't our case. We said 75% of the demand for services comes from the US and the UK. If you add up Japan, that takes you to 90%. So in essence, we didn't bother to go anywhere else. We went to the US and the UK. And what we found was not only a large market, but also a very meritocratic one. So meaning that unless we put a gene of ultra competitiveness in our DNA, it would be impossible to actually grow. For the first 19 years of story, we never did run an advertising. So the only way for us to get ourselves known was word of mouth. And we did many things like that love letter that you found on a bus, trying to convince people living in La Plata that you didn't need to go to Buenos Aires any longer. Actually, our passion is to be in the business of importing opportunities in exchange of exporting software. And
I love that.
The idea is that we don't want to bring people to the large urban centers. we want to bring people to bring opportunities to where people loves to live. Places like La Plata or other 13 cities just in Argentina. But in many countries that we go, we have different cities, so people are able to stay there, to retain the talent on the local communities. That for us is important. But again, the idea is, okay, how do you make yourself known? And unless you used something, and unless you do something different, it's very hard to be known. One thing that happened was that, in those job fairs, we started giving away apples, green apples, because they were the same color than our logo. So people were thinking these guys are crazy, but the reason why we did it is we couldn't afford T-shirts and all the merchandising that other ones have. So we were giving away apples. Also,
everybody was talking about that. I mean, the buzz that generated is incredible.
Yeah, then we started publishing recruiting ads on the newspapers, but rather than saying who we were sending encrypted messages that only clever people could decrypt to find the riddle, and to solve it, they needed to be very good programmers. And of course, it was the green apple that we had also was the only clue of who we were. But people were thinking Oracle Apple is coming to Argentina, or but still today I'm finding people that were trying to solve those riddles during the weekends. So I would say we created the spirit of an intellectual elite, a place where you want to belong, making it extremely hard to get in, and therefore creating some social gravity towards our brand, which at the end of the day, in a professional services company, is your employer brand as well. Is what people feels about the company and the willingness to join. So as you can imagine, growing in talent is extremely difficult. Right now we are 31,000 people in 35 countries. But we started with 4 guys in a bar with $5,000 and the blessing of the bartender back then, only 21 years ago. So you need to create that willingness of people to join your company and then to create the environment where people will drive certain behaviors that will allow this to scale. Okay, as a software engineer who became a social architect, I believe that was the what we had to do, all the founders. We tried to create the environment where certain things would happen at scale, creating a very scalable system. Usually, if you need to be managing complexity by using a hierarchy, typically that doesn't scale. You are a bottleneck, and people is waiting for you to say something. Rather than doing that, we inverted our pyramid, and we gave a lot of, to all our teams, a lot of autonomy. In order to know that, they needed to understand the rules of the game, because if you give a certain principles by which you can make decisions, then it's going to be much easier. So we use technology there. We developed Star Me Up, which is like a social operating system in which I can give you a number of stars to recognize actions that are in alignment with those values. It is so nice to recognize your peer and to be recognized that suddenly people started doing it and continue to do it every day. So 3 times a minute, I have some actions being recognized and being published in front of a public activity feed that actually inspire all, wherever you are. If you are in Vietnam, in the US, in France, or Argentina, you can see and get to know people and try to retain that that level of plasticity and friendliness that is so attached to a startup, but typically large companies don't have it. Okay, so we want to, and we believe that Globant is a massively scaled startup, not a large organization. It's a confederation of startups.
I love that. I love that, and that's probably the major complexity, right? Because it's easy to build a company, to raise capital, to do everything, but building a culture where people, because normally what you do is, startup grow a lot in a short period of time, and then like slow down, create a lot of processes that prevent the company to be on, to go bankrupt by a crazy guy of the moment, right?
Yep.
But that all those processes slow down the speed of the company. But in your case, it's like you never stop accelerating, right? How do you build a culture where people feel empowered to keep pushing and pushing and feel like they have they can make the decisions to accelerate the company as well, right?
Yes. It's you need to be always reminding people of the levels of autonomy they have. You also need for them to understand the principles of your culture. And you need to celebrate certain actions. When you do that, you have suddenly created a fire. It's like, I like to say that we are igniters, not co-founders. We just put all the logs there and then burn it. But suddenly, it became a big bonfire. It's where massive things happen. And as I like to say, for me, Globant is like a massive vending machine of awesomeness. You go, you press a button, and suddenly something awesome happens. I say, who came with this idea? And that's the beauty of it. You need to actually let go and stop trying to think that you need to be in control of everything.
I think it was Henry Ford that said, I don't remember, I'm sorry if this is wrong person, but I think it was Henry Ford that said, tell the people the problem to solve and let them solve them by themselves. They will surprise you with the creative ideas.
I don't know if he said that, but definitely I totally adhere to that thought.
And probably, but it's hard, right? To when you have a company like yours, because at the beginning, your decisions, you made a lot of risky decisions, right? But at the beginning, it was your company. But now you're a public company, and it's different, right? How do you keep taking risks like this? Because telling people that they can make decisions is also has a little risk as well, right?
Well, I believe that at Globant what we do is we combine certain objectives that are written in stone. So we are from day one we started to execute, following and trying to reach certain goals. How you achieve that? That's where the flexibility comes. Okay, so you can adapt in order to reach your goals, but the goals are extremely clear. In that way, you can create a company that has the habit of achieving the goals, but not killing innovation at the same time.
Got it. Super, super interesting. Now, let's go a little bit to the second part. Is I don't know, are we good with the time?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, because this is a very, very interesting conversation, and I'm a little behind schedule, but if you're good, let's go. Let's move forward. There are on the other side of the screen many people that are trying to build a unicorn, and one thing that comes to my mind is when I see an entrepreneur, and one like you or many other people that I know, it seems like behind being becoming a unicorn, there is something else. It's like, I don't know if it's a good example or not, but it's like an entrepreneur is like a gambler, right? And you build things because you like building things. And of course, money is super important because it allows you to build more things. But it's not like you're building companies because of the money. And many people told me the same thing. It's like, in my idea of Born to Unicorn is more like the idea of thinking of, big projects, something that is not, seems like not possible, and then building it. When you started, like, you had this crazy idea of building, something global, or it was at the beginning like, we need to generate income?
No. We wanted to be big something big. And initially it was to become the number one software company from LATAM, serving the global markets. Very soon that dream evolved. In 2006, we became the first company that Google ever trusted to develop software that until then was done on their Googleplex. So a year after, we were already in the being approached by many different players in the Silicon Valley trying to develop their technology. And at that point, our dream evolved and say, okay, we're going to be the number one company trying to help drive a better future for our customers. We know that technology is not necessarily the objective. The technology is just a mean to achieve a reinvention of your business and to create a better future for your business.
Mm-hmm.
So our story hasn't been defined on day one. It was always, every time that we reach a certain, we do a certain level, we say, okay, now with this, what can we achieve? For example, in 2007, working with many of the Silicon Valley companies, we said, hey, now we are in a great opportunity to help companies in more established industries. They are going to try to mimic what the Silicon Valley companies are doing. And as a result, we are going to be in a great shape to actually help them. Mm-hmm. That's when I came to this concept of that we are on the fitness business, not the technology business. Essentially, we are the company here that's going to keep you fit to compete in an exponential future because of the exponential nature of technology. So when you think in that way with a big vision, many things you start to think, okay, now I can zoom out on my vision and suddenly start to see that we can work here, there, in different things, and creates a lot of opportunities for growth. But I would say always our vision was to create something in the long run. It was never to pay dividends. It was never to take money home. As a matter of fact, we have never paid a single dollar in dividends in the history of our company. But one thing that is important is not only you need to find something that your customers are willing to pay for, you need to do it at scale and you need to do it in a long period of time. And one of the things that many entrepreneurs face is at one point in time, if you are a little bit successful, someone will approach you trying to acquire your company. And that happened to us, actually. Back in 2007. If we had decided to sell the company, we would never be a $10 billion company. So the temptation to actually sell the company and run away is something that happens a lot to entrepreneurs, particularly to Argentinian entrepreneurs that always been creating companies in the middle of a very unstable environment.
Mm-hmm.
So chances are that if someone is offering something for your company, it's because you're actually being successful and that you can continue doing so. So that's important. you don't need to run away from your process of building the company early in the story of the company.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying, because sometimes we believe that building a unicorn, it has a lot to do with luck, right? You've been in the right place at the right moment, but it's not true, because that's is more aligned with running like a 200 foot, 200 feet, right? But for Ironman, right, or that kind of exercise, you need to. It's a long run. It's a long run. You gotta go slow but firm, right, and build. And you just mentioned it.
It's an excellent metaphor.
Thank you. And you just say something that is, you rejected an opportunity to sell the company. Can you say for how much money was it?
No, I won't say it, but it was a lot of money for us, because we didn't have any money at all in our bank as individually, so it would have been a great success story, and we would have sold the company 3 years into the making. We've been 21 years now. It takes a long time to actually grow a company, but it's extremely, it's something really that we enjoy doing.
So apparently, it's like many people says that the success is more in the no's than in the yes. Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know what. Maybe could
because
be.
normally the yes are in most cases easier to make, but like say no, say no to a client.
Well, that's true. That's true. When I tell you, okay, we are not gonna sell anything in a region.
Correct.
For us, it was extremely uncomfortable to be on the plane every day, flying coach, going all over, and being away from our family. So that was definitely something, was like a self-imposed restriction that we did to ourselves, and that played a significant role into Globant into making of Globant what it is today. That's really true.
And that takes us to the last point of this part, that is focus. How important is focus?
Well, it's key. It's key. I would say that once you have found the way, you need to continue evolving and improving, but always try to do it on that focus. And then at one point, if you have grown large enough, you will have some ability to enter into other areas. But I would say that keeping your focus is going to be, one of the best things you can do to make your company grow.
It seems like what I see from most unicorns is that in most cases, one thing that is like I see the correlation between success and focus, and also on never giving up, right? It's like sometimes people believe that you can build a unicorn in 5 years, and some people did that, but in most cases it's a long run, right? And I think,
but I don't believe that at any point getting to unicorn status was what we were looking for.
That's something very interesting, and I believe I agree with you. We have to start like recognizing entrepreneurs that build something, in many cases that fail because they were in early stage. But I remember when we built social metrics, it was nobody doing anything like NLP in Argentina. It was 2007 when we started, and we have to hire people from abroad and everything. But at some point, we realized it was a lot of people, like a community around the people we hire for this, around NLP in Argentina and Buenos Aires, and that impacted other people as well. And the company was not a success. I cannot say it was a success story in terms of money, but in terms of the impact that we generated with that, I think it's a good story. Yes, and you're a musician, so right. But I know that you play guitar very, very well many years ago. So today you are probably better. No, you was. I saw you playing Highway to Hell it was. Okay, but remember, I don't know if you remember, but Slash, you know Slash, right? Okay, Slash said, I love playing, guitar in a good band because the more money I get, the more I can play, right? So it is like you can do like a comparison with the entrepreneurs, right? The more cool things we create, the more, and if you make money, the more we can keep creating, right? And that's what we do, right? More than just for the money, because you mentioned something important. You never did it for the money. You did it for the medal, right? And in my case, this is a personal thing. I'm dyslexic. So when I was a kid, I thought that it was dumb. People thought that was for some specific thing. I was very smart. So because I was not doing other things well, they thought I was lazy. So I was, in my view, I was dumb. They believed that I was lazy. So at some point, I wanted to say, I can do it as well. And I remember when I was recognized as an emerging entrepreneur of the year by Endeavor, that I started crying because it was not like for many people like something incredible, but for me was, yes, I could do it as well. Everybody can do it, even myself, right? I have a rapid fire of questions right now. How about that? Okay, so the first one is, what's the most inspiring innovation you've seen recently? We are just scratching the surface, right? What do you think? This is going to be like more game-changing than internet? Second one, best book or podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs. Any book or something that you believe that because we are talking about humans, right? So even a book that you say, this is important for a person to understand about life, okay. If you weren't in this industry, in what industry would you be in? A musician. Really? I love that. Have you ever invested in a company related to that passion? Okay. Describe an ideal Saturday for you. Okay, sounds great. And now we are closing the podcast. And before closing and saying, of course, thank you very much for being here. Many people on the other side of the screen will find extremely interesting that someone like you is giving these interesting insights. But what recommendation would you give to an entrepreneur on the other side of the screen that you think is very valuable, and you probably think it would be great for you to know this before? Ladies and gentlemen, Guibert Englebienne, thank you very much for being here. Thank you.